Well, welcome to Focus Today. We are really delighted to have a special guest with us today. Hopefully give us a pretty good perspective of what's going on there in Israel, and in particular what happened yesterday historically in the UN. I'm delighted to have with us today Dr. James Hutchens. He's president of the Jerusalem Connection International. He's also editor of the foremost Christian Zionist online magazine in America. He does a lot of speaking and done a lot of writing. In fact, his latest article, quite provoking. Let's give war a chance. Well, we're going to talk about that. And Dr. Hutchens, nice to have you, sir. Where are you today?
Thank you very much. Glad to be with you. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area.
All right. Nice.
Virginia, more specifically.
Okay. Yeah. Nice to have you with us today. Well, first of all, thanks for being with us. What did you think of yesterday's vote in the UN?
Well, I thought it was a PR boost for the Palestinians. Basically, it doesn't change anything on the ground as far as Israel and the Palestinians are concerned. I think it just gave them a kind of a shot in the arm regarding their public relations efforts. The silver lining, as I see it, to that endeavor on the part of the Palestinians, at least for the Israelis, is that this renders all former peace plans, Oslo I, Oslo II, Madrid, all these things that have gone before, it renders them null and void. They're nullified.
Wow.
So Israel is no longer bound by these peace plans.
Is that because now they're recognized? I mean, they're not really recognized as a real state, but kind of a fictitious state. So that means that those agreements are nullified because it's a different organization.
It does, but at the core of those peace agreements was the recognition that only negotiations could bring about a solution to it. But what the Palestinians did yesterday was to circumvent the negotiation process and get some measure of recognition from the UN. That's all off now. And I think, as far as Israel is concerned, I would hope that they would see that we're starting from ground zero. And furthermore, I would say this, there's a growing voice in Israel today for the annexation of Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. And frankly, I would join that voice to advocate for that. After the 73 war, sometime after the 67 war, the Golan Heights were annexed. Gaza was annexed, all of the Syria, all of the desert part close to Egypt, the Sinai Peninsula was annexed. Israel gave that back to Egypt. We held on to Gaza, seeking to have an experiment where Israelis and Palestinians could live together. Israel moved out of that totally in 2006. And it left a vacuum for Hamas to come in, and it's been a jihadist state or jihadist regime ever since. So I think there'd be an outcry, certainly, if Israel were to annex the West Bank, but that too would pass.
All right. So is this a powerful move by the UN to force Israel to go back to the 67 borders?
Well, it is an attempt at that. That's what the Palestinians say they want, to go back to the 67 borders. Khalid Mashal, who's supposedly the titular head of Hamas, says that's what we want to go back to. We want everything to be organized and discussed in the negotiation process based upon the 1967 borders.
Did yesterday's move by recognizing Palestine as kind of a, I don't know, surrogate state, I guess. Does that affect our relationship, the U.S.'s relationship with Israel?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. But I'm very cautious to say that, because I think the United States may want to push Israel back into being obligated to Oslo and the former peace plans. But as I said before, those things are nullified. And I think from Israel's standpoint, they should think that they're starting from scratch regarding any kind of peace agreements with the Palestinians. The United States may try to lean heavily on Israel to abide by those by the dictates of those former peace plans, but in my view, they shouldn't. And I think in Israel's view, they're recognizing that they're free from all these peace plans, negotiations from before, and it's in the long run. It seems to me that the Palestinians got way ahead of themselves. Because they're not going to have a two-state solution when they've nullified all the plans that were leading to that.
Yesterday's vote, the reaction, of course, the United States was one of the dissenting votes, and there was some very strong commentary from within the administration opposing this vote, which seems to be contrary to what the administration really thinks about Israel.
Well, yeah, that's coming up to the election. We had a pretty dim view of how Obama and Netanyahu were getting along. But I think the America's stand on this attempt by the Palestinians for observer status, that's what they've got, observer status. I think that was something that went to the very heart of the United States policy for Israel and the Palestinians for a two-state solution. Two-state solution is peripheral at this point. I mean, it set back the attempt to have a two-state solution miles, if not decades. And I should say, and I think you're probably aware of this, that there are many who are voicing concern about the two-state solution in Israel anyway.
Yeah.
They don't think it ever happened. And when the Palestinians are talking about a two-state solution, they don't really mean that. What they're talking about is the removal, the annihilation of the modern state of Israel and replaced totally by Palestine. When they talk about the occupation, they're not just talking about the West Bank. They want to get the West Bank. They're talking about Haifa, Tel Aviv, the entire modern state of Israel is to no longer be Israel, it's to be Palestine. So that's not going to happen.
Wasn't that motive pretty much exposed in former Prime Minister Barak when he basically offered the West Bank and they said no? I mean, at that point, I mean, they really were exposed.
Well, even at that point, as you'll recall, I mean, Ehud Barak was going to give them the store. And Camp David and Arafat came right down to it, and he says, if I make an agreement, they're going to kill me. Mm. So he refused to make an agreement. I mean, he had all that he'd ever asked for, plus. I mean, he'd gotten East Jerusalem, he'd gotten all the West Bank. Gaza was not, Israel hadn't left Gaza at that point. But this is, I go back to this. The Palestinians and the jihadists, I'm saying and they're led by jihadists at this point. Let me just say parenthetically, there's a huge divide within the leadership of the Palestinians. Hamas is led in the south by Ismail Haniyeh, and in the north by President Abbas. And they're loggerheads. You'd have, under their direction, you'd have a three-state solution. And that's not going to happen. But the negotiation for the Palestinians is simply a means to advance incrementally. Mm-hmm. And the next increment, if they got the West Bank, there'd be something else after that. But this is really a setback for the Palestinians' efforts toward that at this point.
You know, respectfully so, I disagreed with the previous administration, George W. Bush, championing a two-state Israel. I thought that was a huge mistake on his part, and I think even scripturally it was a huge mistake on his part. I don't see a two-state Israel. I mean, I don't know how they could possibly exist if they give up any more land to the Palestinians.
That's a creation of modern diplomacy. That's, as you say, that's nowhere to be found in the scriptures. As a matter of fact, as I see it, the next significant event that it's going to involve Israel as a people is what I've referred to as a colossal clash with the Arabs, and specifically the Palestinians. And that's a victorious clash as far as Israel. And there are a lot of things that happen after that, and that's not all there is to the end time scenario. Mm-hmm. But Zechariah 12 speaks of a time where God says, I'm going to make Jerusalem a cup that sends all the surrounding nations reeling. And that I'll make them like an immovable rock, and anyone who tries to move them will injure themselves. I'll make the leaders of Judah like a fire pot and a wood pile, like a blazing torch among sheaves, and they will consume right and left all the surrounding peoples, and Jerusalem will remain intact. Now that's the depiction of a huge victory as far as Israel is concerned.
How can people maybe get more of your articles and things?
Go to our website. That's the JerusalemConnection.us, not .org, but .us, JerusalemConnection.us. We have right on the homepage of that website, we've got an opportunity for people to sign up for a free newsletter that comes every Friday. Also, we do what we call a spot report on Tuesdays. And those are simply efforts to inform and educate and activate concerning hot button issues that are related to Israel.
All right.
In fact, our newsletter just came out today as a response to what took place in UN yesterday.
All right, the JerusalemConnection.us. Currently, Israel's in a ceasefire mode, and I don't know, is this really a camouflage and a subterfuge for a reload mode?
That's exactly what it is. The Arabs call it Hudna, Hudna. And Hudna simply means a cessation of hostilities while we rearm and resupply, and then we'll let you know when we're ready to attack you again. That's basically what it is. And it's the way that all of Israel's wars and skirmishes and confrontations have taken place. They've ended by an imposed, what's tantamount to the imposition of a ceasefire. Israel has never had the opportunity to go in and do what needs to be now done ultimately, and that's defeat the jihadist leadership that's behind all their attacks.
They're certainly capable, but I guess international pressure is keeping them from doing it.
Well, that's basically what it is. But I think that the day's coming when there'll be sufficient weaponry that are advanced toward Israel that they're going to have to do something, and they're going to go in and do what's necessary.
Is Israel... excuse me.
Yeah.
No, excuse me. I'm sorry. We got a little delay here. Is Israel capable of mounting a multi-front attack, I guess, or at least defense, if all of these things came at once and at the same time Iran raises its ugly head and they have to take the nukes out? Are they capable of handling all of this at once?
They've done it before. The 67 war, the 73 war, they were surrounded by these same people, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Egypt, and when they got them on the ropes, the UN and the U.S. joined together to impose a ceasefire. But that's just prolonging the inevitable. Mm-hmm. And the inevitable is going to be a power confrontation between Palestinian Arabs and Israel. And these ceasefires are just, that's what they are. It's a ceasefire, meaning the firing is going to start again. And in my view, Israel at some point is going to have to step in and bring about a decisive solution to this. And they're capable of doing that. I'm fully aware of that.
The changes in...
Let me say this. Yeah. Up till now, from my contacts in Israel, and some of that's with Mossad, that's their CIA, Shin Bet, that's their FBI, the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, to a person and their leadership, they do not believe that there will be peace with the Palestinians. To a person, they're not planning on. So what we see from the leadership is really kind of a diplomatic dance that's going back. They would like to have peace, and they're going to make all the efforts to do it and move to a two-state solution. But those who are evaluating the intelligence the decision makers use to make their decision, they're saying this is never going to happen. And so what they say is, and this is what they've done, what they say is, and this is their terminology, that they can contain and manage the conflict. And that's exactly what they're doing right now, and have been for the last several years.
All right, so we're really talking about Bible prophecy here.
Yeah, we are. Exactly. And I think that we're moving closer to some of these things that are referred to in the scriptures. Zechariah 12, for example, as I mentioned earlier, is something that's in the offing, I think.
Has Defense Secretary Barak's announcement to not go for re-election, is that impacting?
Well, I don't know. He's a master strategist. He's the most decorated of Israel's war heroes, and he's a master strategist and tactician. My sense is that he's pulled out of the defense ministry to perhaps look for greener grass elsewhere. But I would expect that he's going to be involved in Israeli politics for the foreseeable future. He's 70 years old, but I think he's got a lot left, and he's not of the same mind as Netanyahu on a lot of issues. And I think he may have felt that staying with Likud would limit his capabilities and his options. But he's very capable, and I would expect him to see a part of the Israeli political scene for the indefinite future.
With the unrest now back with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and the prime minister there trying to create dictatorial powers, is that a weakening, or is that just a natural transition of what was elected?
That's a weakening. In my view, that's what you're talking about, his attempt to assume powers over the judiciary.
Right.
That's a weakening, and you can look at the square where they're in Cairo, where all the opposition is focusing. I mean, the people don't want that. Mm-hmm. They got rid of that, and they got rid of Mubarak, they thought. And I don't. Jury's still out as to whether they're going to have an effect or not. But they've just changed dictators at this point.
All right. Your article says, "Let war have a chance." Explain your article.
Well, I'm saying that what I alluded to earlier, that all of Israel's wars, all their skirmishes, all the confrontations they've had with the Arabs and the Palestinians have ended in ceasefire. And I'm saying that can't go on. You just can't have a ceasefire, and 2 or 3 months Hamas is back throwing in their missiles, or Hezbollah is doing the same, or Iran takes them. Like in Vietnam. I think there has to be a victory. Vietnam was my major war, and we never had a decisive victory. We could have. There was no question in my mind but what we could have. And there's no question in my mind but what Israel can have a decisive victory. But they will be going, once that happens, there will be a deluge of international anger and wrath that comes down on Israel. But it's a matter of lesser of two bad alternatives for it.
Dr. Hutchens, thank you. I know you're on a tight schedule. We are too. Thank you. I'd like to have you back. And again, you can correspond with Dr. Hutchens through his website there at jerusalemconnection.us and pick up his material. Thank you, my friends. Blessing on you. And we continue to pray for your work, and certainly pray for the peace of Jerusalem and Israel. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Same to you.